Welcome to Golden Black Live, and special guest Dave Shondell will join us for segment one. I want to thank our sponsors, Triple X, on the hill but on the level, the Purdue tradition since 1929. I have a sense someday there'll be something named after Dave Shondell there. Hilton Garden Inn, when tomorrow's a big day, stay at HGI tonight. State Farm agent Trent Johnson at trentismyagent.com. And full disclosure here, this is not live because the coach and his team have a big match tonight at Ohio State. We are recording a day or so early as the Boilermakers will be making their way across the plain, so to speak, or at least across I-70 to Ohio State. Let's talk about that match because you know, a tremendous, iconic win for you guys a couple weeks ago when you beat the Buckeyes in 5 sets. You talked about how you outlasted them. Payback can be tough, and that's going to be a challenge. I'm sure it'll be a challenging match anytime you go against the 6th ranked team, you guys, and 7th ranked Ohio State.
Yeah, we know it's going to be a really tough match. The last one was going to be tough. A year ago when Ohio State was playing really well, we went over to the Covelli Center for a doubleheader, Friday, Saturday deal, and won both those matches. And I think that surprised a few people.
Yeah.
So we knew they would be looking for us this year. Fortunately, that first match was at home in Holloway Gym, and we were fortunate to hang on to beat them. They are a good team. They have everybody back from a year ago, just like we do. So we knew it was going to be a real dogfight, and we were fortunate to play really well the last 2 sets and win that after being down 2 sets to 1. And now we go over to really face some music in Columbus, where you know that they're going to be chomping at the bit, and it will be a great match. But I think that our team will be ready to go. We're a really competitive group with a lot of maturity, so I expect us to play very well.
Yeah, you know, you look at your schedule, and you're great to always say one match at a time, and it's the only way to do it. And you have Penn State at home on Sunday as well, so that's going to be another walk in the park for you guys. But looking back, and I thought you had an interesting experience. You kind of warned yourself and folks at Illinois, which has been a very tough opponent as it is every year when they beat you in West Lafayette, but you go back to Huff Gym and beat them back there. What did that tell you about maybe the mettle of your team, and what do you think you learned from that experience? You know, it's a great league. You're going to lose matches. That's almost a given. But to go back and beat them there was a huge deal at Illinois.
Well, it was a similar match to the Ohio State match, Alan, from the standpoint we were down 2 sets to 1. In this case, on the road at Huff Hall, and I just thought that, you know, that maturity and experience that I keep talking about and toughness, you know, we found a few things that would work for us, and we started to defend them a little bit better. And we were due after they had beaten us the 5 days before. I felt like we had a little bit of a psychological advantage on them, but it didn't pay off until the last 2 sets. But you know, what I learned is that this league is really good. And if Illinois is the 7th or 8th best team in the Big Ten, it tells you you're going to be in for a battle really about every night in this league. And so that's why I've been really talking a lot about don't look ahead. Don't start looking at all the teams you have to play, but just look at one. And you know, we'll be looking at Ohio State again, and a team we have played once, so the preparations are a little bit easier. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. You just have to make some adjustments and make sure your team is playing better. Our practice today will be a lot. This is delayed, but this would be on Wednesday. So our practice today is going to be focusing on getting better. Purdue has to get better.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, especially when they're veteran players, they can fall into the trap of getting into a comfort zone and feeling like they're there, they've arrived. We haven't arrived anywhere. And we got to get some people to get better if we're going to have success down the stretch.
And for those of you that don't know and you've been under a rock about the schedule, just get this: Wisconsin, who is ranked 3rd, you're going to play them at home eventually. You've got Nebraska home and home ranked 9th right now. Minnesota, you go to Minnesota they're ranked 10th. Penn State, as we talked about, 15th. Illinois is in essence 26. They're receiving votes, as is Michigan. I mean, it's a gauntlet, and we talk about that every time we do an interview. And I think I find it interesting, just as you've evolved as a coach, and you have, as anybody, that you can't sit still and you change maybe the way you do things a little bit, but that the ability to keep that focus on one match at a time. I mean, how hard is that? Or is that maybe not as hard as you think, just because if you don't do it, you can't really compete in this league because you have who you have to play match in and match out?
Well, I think for the athletes, it's not that hard because every match is so significant.
Yeah.
It would be different if you're playing, a weak team right before you play one of the monsters of the Midway.
Yeah.
But we don't have many opportunities like that. We know that everybody we play, we have to be well prepared for. Now, our coaching staff clearly is doing things to get started on Penn State. Yeah. We're not going to sit around until 10 o'clock on Friday to start getting ready for Penn State, who we play, a day and a half later. So we're trying to lay the groundwork for them, off away from the team. And then when we do finish the match on Friday, we'll already have something to present to our ball club about how we get ready to hopefully beat Penn State.
Yeah, going to be a challenge at 13-2, 5-1 in the league. Purdue is sitting in a good spot, but as you will always remind us, nothing guaranteed moving forward. It's a rough road to hoe. Talk about your seniors, and you have an interesting I don't know if COVID necessarily had a lot to do with this, but you've got really some experience, and yet you've also got some young players that are starting to make a difference. Raven Colvin being one, but there are others. Talk about the makeup of the team. If you had a team in all your years at Purdue that been quite like this one in terms of balance, and maybe because of COVID, nothing can be quite like this one, I suppose.
Well, I think unique part about this team is 21 players. Yeah, which is, I think, 3 or 4 more than we've ever had before. And so it takes a lot of cooperation, a lot of selflessness from everybody to make that work. And to this point, I've been really impressed with how well our players, whether they be, 5th year players or freshmen that might be redshirting, how well they've contributed to making sure that everybody was positive and that we're thinking about the team first and not individuals. But we do have the returning 5th year players, Caitlin Newton and Jenna Otek. But most of the Big Ten has the same thing. I think Wisconsin has 4 or 5 of those types. And so we're pretty much the norm for having 2 come back, but they're both playing at a high level. And I think what's interesting, our fans might appreciate, is that how much more mature they are this year than they were last year, how much more calm. And I think just leadership from a standpoint of setting a great example that they have provided. And, we get these kids at a time where they're probably growing at an incredible pace. And so they continue to grow. They don't stop when they get done with their degree. That continues like it does for all of us. Then we have a great senior class, Grace Cleveland, who was, first team All-America a year ago. You have Haley Bush, who's a, redshirt senior that is one of the, 5 or 6 best setters in the country, in my opinion. She just does a lot of things really well. JL Johnson, who has missed the last couple of matches for us, and we hope to get her back sooner than later, is a middle that's had a great year for us. Marissa Hornung has gone back and forth in the libero position with Jenna Otek, and has all the intangibles you want in a leader on a team. And then Emma Terwilliger is kind of a serving specialist on our team. So there's 7 players that are in at least their 4th season of volleyball. And because of that, I think that gives you a little bit of a leg up on, normally it would on everybody, but this year on a lot of teams, but not everybody. As I mentioned, Penn State, Wisconsin, Minnesota, everybody's got these 5th year kids that are back. But our team will look a lot different next year. That's for sure. When most likely 7 of those players move on to the real world. Yeah. And
you've got, the cupboard will not be bare, but it will be different. And that part, I think, is something that good coaches like yourself are able to continue to make that work. You look at recruiting, and last year was a black hole in a lot of ways, just because you couldn't get out. Did that make it's a rhetorical question? Yes, it made it more difficult, but you recruit as a certain type of person to play for you, and you talk about leadership. You're obviously good at identifying that when they're in high school and what they might look like when they're in college. How tough did that make it last year, or the time when you weren't able to be out? You're doing a lot of Zoom stuff, et cetera. Every coach talks about it, but was there anything unique to volleyball that made it even more problematic in terms of not being on the road? Or is that still kind of working its way out because these were younger kids that you weren't able to go see all the time either?
Yeah, I don't think it was as challenging for our program or many of the Big Ten programs, because we got ahead of the game a little bit. We did a lot of that work. Before they changed the rule to where you could not make a commitment until you were a junior.
Yeah.
We had kids that were already prepared to make those commitments. And so when we got into this COVID period and we were having to go to Zoom calls to recruit, we were recruiting kids that were sophomores at that point in time, that were then, just becoming juniors. Mm-hmm. And luckily, over the course of time, Purdue has become more attractive to student athletes, whether it be male or female. I think this place has grown up, has blown up. And right now, it's not as hard to get people's attention as it was 10, 15 years ago. So we got in the door with a lot of really good people. And in the class that we're talking about that are now juniors, we got our quota, and we got 4 really, really good volleyball players. So, but a lot of that was because I thought our players did a good job in recruiting. I thought our staff did a good job of recruiting. And I think that the name Purdue just resonates very, very well, as much across the country as it might even in our own state.
Your program has always been at a high level. You had to establish the foundation when you came back here, a few years back, but you built a foundation that was extremely strong. And yet there's something in the air, so to speak, that like you've kind of ratcheted up another level, if that's possible, not just on wins and losses. And we know that that's going to be a challenge to do what you want to do in the NCAA tournament and the Big Ten, et cetera. But did you sense that yourself, in terms of where this program has just taken a level of fan interest? Everything, it's Purdue volleyball, gets as much talk. You're good on social media as well. Fans like you because of your approach, but are you up a level from that standpoint? Do you sense that yourself in terms of interest and everything surrounding the program?
Well, I think it goes hand in hand with the expectations. When you return a team that went to the Elite Eight a year ago and everybody is back, and you have some good young players joining that team, 2 high-level recruits that came in, and Raven Colvin and Allie Horning, both top 20 recruits in the country. Yeah. And there's just a lot of excitement for what this team will do this season. And, we've literally sold out every match at home. And I think there's a couple of matches that have not been sold out down the road, but a lot of them have been. Yeah. And, part of it is people have the opportunity to get back out and do something. Sure. That has something to do with it. But, you look at what happened with Annie Drews. Annie Drews, is a member of the Olympic team, the first women's Olympic team in the sport of volleyball from the United States to win a gold medal. And not only was she on the team, she was a leader on the team, and they wouldn't have won it without her. So that was good PR for us. We have some other great players playing professionally at a high level professional volleyball that are also knocking on the door and making that top 12 or 15 USA players roster. So we've been putting some good players out. I think that our fans like who our players are. I think that they appreciate the work effort, how they do academically, the character, the toughness that they play with, that they're real people. And but I think it still comes down to fans will get behind somebody that they think can win. And they think this team can win. And I think you're seeing that in some other sports, which is why people are going to go crazy about Matt Painter's basketball team this year, because they're going to be able to win, and they're going to be really hard to beat. And there'll be a lot of fun to watch as well.
Yeah. And you talked also, interesting from a coaching perspective, in terms of 21 players is a good thing, it's also a challenging thing because not everybody, you're as likable guy as you can be, but they're not always going to love the fact that they're not your players if they're not playing. Has that caused your staff, and your staff's been together through 400 plus victories at Purdue? How much of that has has that forced you to sharpen the pencil a little bit? I mean, or how has that impacted things in terms of keeping it all together and keeping everybody as happy or at least as motivated as they can be as this season progresses?
Well, it's been a lot of, I think, work behind the scenes. It's been a lot of work before the season started in communication with players, not just those that may not get a chance to play as much, but those that are playing and what their role is and what their behavior needs to be like, and that they can't expect to necessarily own a position. That when Otech and Newton both came back for a fifth year, I was frank with them that my name's Dave, I'm not Frank, but I was honest with them that their role wasn't going to be the same. That they weren't going to come in here and automatically get those positions, because there were people that were looking to get that position before the COVID rule came in that allowed those fifth year kids to come back. But also I told our entire team before we even met as a collective group that this is going to be the toughest coaching job of our staff's career. And we can't do it by ourselves. There's just no way that without their help on a daily basis, are we going to be able to get through this year and stay positive and productive and have a chance to have a banner season like we think we can, and that they have to help. They have to do their job. And we have to have better communication. We have to make sure that if there are concerns, we're airing those out. We're talking to people in the right way. But bottom line is, it's not about you. It's about us.
Yeah.
And they have to have trust in the staff. They have to have trust in their leaders on the team. So there's a lot that goes on to make that happen. And you never know when you might run into a problem. I mean, it could be tomorrow. You know, it could be in 3 weeks from now. So far, it's gone very well. And I give all the credit to the kind of people that we have on this team, the players, the character, the fact that they bought in, the leadership within the team, and how they've set the tone. So at this point in time, it's gone well, but we're 13-2 and we're ranked 6th in the country, and our RPI is 6th in the country. So everything is in line with being successful. But I give all that credit to the players and how they walk into our gym every day and how they don't put themselves ahead of everybody else.
All right. I know you're not going to be focused on Purdue football, but you're your team and your staff are just good supporters of all Purdue sports. I know you've been involved. You and soccer have had a little thing going on. They're having a great year, a breakthrough year with Drew Rolfe and company. But you're also a good analyst of sports and teams. Not asking you for prediction, but you look at Purdue, Iowa tomorrow, and Purdue's got a great opportunity there. Iowa ranks 2nd in the country. Purdue's beaten Iowa 3 out of 4 times under Jeff Brom. A little bit of a disappointment a couple of weeks ago against Minnesota, but what are you seeing from this team and the dynamic that you might see in Iowa City tomorrow when Purdue and Iowa take on one another?
Well, that's a real sticky situation you're putting me in there, but
I know. Thank you.
No, I first of all, I'm a huge believer in Jeff Brom, and Jeff Brom has put together a really good staff right now. One that I think he would agree was not the staff he wanted to have a year ago. It didn't work. And he's in a better place. There's no doubt that Coach Brom is in a much better place right now than he was a year ago. His defensive staff is a major upgrade, and they're playing great defense. I don't know enough about Iowa except they're ranked number 2. I don't know that they're the number 2 team in the country. It's hard to say at this point in time. It's just like in volleyball. How do you know yet? It's too early in the season to know. Okay, this team beat this team, so that means this team is really good. Well, maybe not. But I also know Iowa will be ready to play as they always are. They're a tough team. It's going to take a lot of things to go our way. We don't have quite the arsenal on both sides of the football that probably Iowa has at this point in time. So a lot of things will have to go the way that of the Boilermakers. So, but we'll be in it. I can promise you that Coach Brown will have a plan and have us a way that we can win the football game.
Yeah, well said. Yeah. you can go on to a Big Ten Network and do volleyball and football. I think you'd be excellent. And you're a basketball
I
guy
prefer
too, so.
Basketball. Yeah,
I know you do.
football's
I
a
know.
little bit out of my wheelhouse, to be honest.
Oh, that's
with you, Alan,
confusing.
but
Yeah, but
a lot going on there.
yeah, no doubt. Well, hey, thank you so much for your time. We wish you guys well. Safe travels to Columbus. By the time this airs, you're already there, so that's a good thing. Penn State on Sunday. You still have a match at home with Indiana. You got those sneaky matches too. You talked about Northwestern, tough teams. There's pitfalls anywhere you turn in this league, and it will be an interesting next couple of months as you guys make your way through the rest of the Big Ten season and hopefully deep into the NCAA tournament. So best of luck to you. Thanks for your time. And good luck this weekend and throughout the rest of the season.
Thanks, Alan. Appreciate it. Seven home matches yet to play. So a lot of volleyball for our fans. And we certainly appreciate the great support we got and yours as well. Thank you.
All right. Thanks. And we'll be back for our next segment of Golden Black Live. And there'll be much more to come on today's show. Hey, sir. Thanks so much. What time?
Thank you.
Do you always leave? You leave tomorrow, I assume. Do you have the same rule?
We're flying. We fly out at what time, Rachel? 4?
We fly out at 4. We're meeting at 3:30.
Yeah, 4 o'clock. We fly out of here.
And you always do a walkthrough at
It's different. It's different. Sometimes we'll practice here and then go over there. But if we get a chance to get into the facility, we like to practice over there the night before. And then we'll also practice there in the morning.
Yeah.
As well. So we'll get 2 looks at the Covelli Center, where we're 3-0 right now. Yeah. By the way,
nice building. I know that. And
it's the best volleyball facility that I've been in. It really is.
No, I mean, and they'll have 4,000 there. I'm sure.
They sold out for Michigan on Sunday, and I'm sure they'll be right there again for us. And Ohio State and Indiana both built those gyms at the same time, and Ohio State put all the bells and whistles in, and Indiana decided not to. And there's a big difference in those 2 places.
Yeah,
so,
no doubt.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay,
Good luck to you, my friend. We'll talk again soon. All right.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.